Hey there, amazing people. Ever felt like your hard work just vanishes? Like you pour your heart and soul into something, and it's barely noticed? Or maybe you've whispered a worry, a wish, into the quiet of the night, wondering if anyone out there truly hears you? That deep down desire to be seen, to be valued. Yeah, we all know that feeling, don't we? And sometimes that fear creeps in, the one that whispers, "Are you enough? Are you doing enough?" It's that little knot in your stomach, isn't it? Or maybe you've carried a secret, a suspicion, a feeling that something just isn't quite right, that the world isn't as fair as it seems. Tell me, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city, your country in the comments. It's incredible to see how far our little stories can reach, isn't it? And hey, before we dive in, a little tap on that like button would be super appreciated. It lets us know you're here, you're ready, you're awesome. Because this one is for you. Yes, you. The one with the big heart, and maybe a few unanswered questions swirling around. Now imagine this: a powerful CEO, someone who makes big decisions, someone you might think lives in a completely different world, deciding to walk right into the shoes of their everyday workers. Not for a photo op, not for a quick peek, but to really listen, to truly understand. What happens when that kind of person steps out of their fancy office and into the late-night quiet of a local diner? What secrets might they overhear? What truths might be whispered when no one thinks the boss is around? Let's dive in to see what unfolds in the heart of a seemingly ordinary night. The fluorescent lights of Rosie's diner hummed with a lonely energy, casting a pale glow on the checkered floor. Arthur Blackwood, the usually sharp-suited CEO of a nationwide restaurant chain, sat hunched over a chipped Formica counter, a worn-out baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Tonight, he was just Art, a tired-looking man nursing a lukewarm coffee. His usual air of command was gone, replaced by a quiet observation, a deep curiosity etched onto his face. He'd felt it for months, a nagging unease. The numbers looked good on paper, the reports were positive, but something felt off, like a low hum beneath the surface of a seemingly well-oiled machine. He suspected a disconnect, a gap between the boardroom and the reality faced by the people who kept his business running, day in and day out. That's why he was here, undercover, in one of his busiest late-night spots. Behind the counter, two figures moved with a practiced rhythm. There was Jolene, a woman with kind eyes and tired lines around them, her movements efficient as she wiped down the grill. And then there was Finn, younger, with a mop of unruly brown hair and a constant, restless energy. They seemed like decent folks, working hard as the late-night crowd trickled in. Arthur listened, his ears straining over the clatter of plates and the hiss of the fryer. For a while, it was just the usual diner sounds, orders being called out, the brief, polite exchanges with customers. But as the last of the late-night rush dwindled, and a comfortable silence settled over the diner, Arthur heard it. It started with a sigh from Jolene, a deep, weary sound that spoke volumes. Finn stopped wiping the counter and leaned against it, looking at her. "Rough night, huh, Joe?" he asked, his voice low. Jolene nodded, running a hand through her hair. "They're all rough, Finn. You know that." She paused, then added, her voice laced with a quiet frustration. "Sometimes I feel like we're pouring everything we have into this place, and it's just never enough." Finn shifted his weight, his gaze drifting towards the empty booths. "Tell me about it. My rent went up again. You see what they pay us an hour, Joe? It barely covers groceries, let alone anything else." There was a raw honesty in his voice, a vulnerability that tugged at Arthur's conscience. Arthur's heart sank a little. He knew the company paid minimum wage, a standard across the industry, but hearing it spoken with such stark reality, it hit differently. These weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These were people with lives and worries and dreams. Jolene nodded sadly. "Remember Mrs. Gable? She came in last week, said her grandson needed new shoes for school. She was counting out pennies to pay for her coffee. Her voice was thick with emotion. We work our tails off here, Finn. We're here when everyone else is sleeping, dealing with, well, you know. And for what? So the big shots can get richer?" Finn snorted softly, a sound devoid of humor. "Don't even get me started on the big shots, Joe. They probably wouldn't last an hour in our shoes. They sit in their fancy offices, looking at numbers, and they have no idea what it's really like down here." Arthur felt a flush creep up his neck. Their words, though not directed at him personally, felt like a punch to the gut. He had always believed he was a fair man, a good leader. But hearing this, it made him question everything. Had he become too detached? Too focused on profit margins and quarterly reports to see the human cost? He took a slow sip of his cooling coffee, trying to appear nonchalant, but inside, a storm was brewing. Suspicion gnawed at him. Were these isolated complaints, or was this a widespread feeling among his employees? Was he truly running a company that valued its people, or had he unknowingly created a system that left them feeling undervalued and unheard? The fear of the latter was a cold weight in his chest. He decided to engage carefully. Clearing his throat, he spoke in a low, unassuming voice. "Long night, huh?" Jolene and Finn both turned, a little startled. They hadn't seemed to notice him sitting there. Jolene offered a tired smile. "You could say that, sir." "Yeah," Finn added, leaning back against the counter again. "It's always something." Arthur nodded slowly. "I hear that. Seems like hard work." Jolene's eyes held a hint of something Arthur couldn't quite decipher. Was it resignation? Resentment? It is. But someone's got to do it, right? "What do you think would make it easier?" Arthur asked, trying to keep his tone neutral, just a curious customer making conversation. Finn didn't hesitate. "More pay for starters. We're barely scraping by here, you know." He looked directly at Arthur, a flicker of defiance in his eyes. "It's not like the company isn't making money." Jolene shot Finn a warning look, but Finn seemed past caring. "It's the truth, Joe. We deserve a fair wage for the hours we put in, the work we do." Arthur listened intently, every word sinking in. The pain in their voices was palpable, the desire for something better so clear. He thought of his own life, the comfortable home, the security he took for granted. How could he, in good conscience, continue to benefit while the people working tirelessly for him struggled to make ends meet? He spent another hour at the diner, listening to Jolene and Finn talk about their lives, their struggles, their small hopes for the future. He learned about Jolene's sick mother and Finn's dreams of going back to school. They weren't just cogs in a machine. They were individuals with real lives and real challenges. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," Olivia whispered, rubbing her temples. "I'm so exhausted all the time." "And for what?" "Barely enough to cover the bills." Noah nodded in agreement. "They expect so much, but the pay just doesn't reflect it. It feels like they don't even see us, you know? Like we're just replaceable." There was a deep sadness in his voice, a sense of being invisible. That word, replaceable, echoed in Arthur's mind. Had he allowed his employees to feel like they were nothing more than interchangeable parts? The thought was deeply disturbing. He had always prided himself on building a company that felt like a family. Had he failed? The weight of this realization was almost unbearable. The fear that he had inadvertently created a system that was causing so much hardship was a constant ache. He knew he had to do something significant, to bridge this gap and show his employees that they were valued, that they were seen. The following month, Arthur called a company-wide meeting. He stood before his employees, not in his usual power suit, but in the same simple uniform he had worn during his undercover stints. He spoke not as a distant CEO, but as someone who had walked in their shoes, who had heard their concerns firsthand. He told them about his experience, about the conversations he had overheard, the struggles he had witnessed. He spoke with genuine emotion, his voice thick with sincerity. He admitted his shortcomings, his blindness to the realities faced by his team. Then, he announced a significant increase in the minimum wage across all his restaurants. He outlined plans for improved benefits, including better health care and opportunities for advancement. He spoke about creating a culture of respect and open communication, where every employee felt heard and valued. The room was silent as he spoke, a mixture of surprise and disbelief on the faces of his employees. When he finished, a slow clap started, then another, and soon the entire room erupted in applause. There were tears in some eyes, smiles on many faces. Jolene and Finn were there, standing near the back. Their eyes met Arthur's, and he saw a flicker of hope, a glimmer of renewed faith. He knew this was just the beginning, that there was still much work to be done. But it was a start, a real, tangible start. Years passed. Arthur remained committed to fostering a positive and supportive work environment. He made regular visits to his restaurants, not as the CEO inspecting the premises, but as a fellow member of the team, listening, learning, and ensuring that the values he had rediscovered during his undercover journey remained at the heart of his company. The restaurants thrived. Employee morale soared, customer satisfaction increased, and the company's success grew, not just in terms of profit, but in its reputation as a place that truly cared about its people. And Arthur? He never forgot his time as Art, the tired-looking man at the counter of Rosie's diner. It was a powerful reminder that true leadership wasn't about numbers and reports. It was about empathy, understanding, and the unwavering belief in the value of every single person. So, what do you think of Arthur's journey? Did you see that coming? What would you have done in his place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched you, if it made you think, please hit that like button. It means the world. Remember, everyone deserves to be seen, to be valued. Sometimes, all it takes is truly listening to hear the whispers of the heart. And sometimes, the greatest lessons are learned when we step outside our comfort zone and into the shoes of another. Never underestimate the power of empathy, and always strive to create a world where everyone feels like they truly matter. That's a world worth working towards, isn't it?